Okay, so this is the brainstem, and it's the oldest part of the brain, and it's basically just where the spinal cord connects to the brain. The medulla is the part of the brain that controls heartbeat and breathing. The reticular formation and the reticular activation is the part of the brain that controls sleep and arousal. Pons also controls sleeping and dreaming. The cerebellum, also known as like little brain, is basically in control of motion, balance, and coordination. The amygdala is fight or flight response and alertness. The hippocampus is responsible for like long-term memory and spatial awareness. The thalamus is responsible for intaking information and organizing it. And the hypothalamus is responsible for motivated behaviors and like eating and drinking. And yeah, and then the pituitary gland is basically just responsible for the other glands and making sure that they send their signals. The corpus callosum is what connects the right hemisphere to the left hemisphere and allows the signals to cross. And the cerebral cortex is the overarching, like on top of the brain, and its function is to the mental function.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry.
Oh yeah, it's okay.
Thank God you weren't closer, I would have killed you.
Okay. So for somosensory cortex, we're sensing touch, like pain, temperature, stuff like that. And then for the parietal lobe, we're processing sensory information that has to do with taste, temperature, and touch. And then in the occipital lobe, we process and respond to visual stimulus in that area. And then the temporal lobe is involved in hearing, language, and processing, just like Wernicke's area. And then for the frontal lobe, that is involved in personality and voluntary of muscle controls, and Broca's area is involved in speaking as well and forming thoughts. And then the auditory cortex is involved for like understanding language. And up here we have the motor cortex, which controls voluntary movements. And did I hit everything in the left hemisphere?
Yeah.
All right, and then in the right hemisphere we have fusiform gyro, which is basically just the facial recognition part of the brain. And yeah, that's what we have for that. The visual cortex is involved in processing scene information.